Hey everyone, and welcome back to Love and Law. My name is Virginia Warren. I am a lawyer and conflict alchemist and co-founder of the organisation called Lawyers for Love. At Lawyers for Love, we see that the legal system is founded in fear, and that we say to solve a problem, you need a higher level of consciousness than that which created it. We call that consciousness love. That's why we're called Lawyers for Love. Love is of the essence. And if we sort of shorten that, we've got a lovely little term called Leotech. Love is of the essence consciousness. That's the higher level of consciousness we see as solving the problem from a lower level of consciousness. In these live broadcasts, we're showcasing amazing lawyers from around the world who are bringing their own style of love into legal practice. And we ask that anyone that wants to come live and post a question, please feel free, and we'll try and get you an answer during the broadcast if that's possible. But today it gives me great pleasure to welcome the wonderful Carrie Scattergood, a lawyer from New Jersey, USA, who brings care, empathy and compassion into the practice of law. Carrie's father is a lawyer. Her great uncle and mentor was also a lawyer. She literally grew up in a law office, spending afternoons and Saturday mornings playing in a legal library. That sounds like fun. Despite that, she did not think about becoming a lawyer until her early 20s. She was pursuing a master's degree in art therapy when she realized if she was going to help people solve their problems, she wanted to be more action-oriented. After Carrie graduated law school, she clerked for a criminal judge for a year, and very soon thereafter, and unexpectedly, she learned she was pregnant. These things happen, don't they? Her legal career from the very beginning was intertwined with motherhood, and so she was not able to pursue the traditionally US track of working for a few to establish her career before starting a family. It was challenging, but forced her to figure out how to do this law thing differently, and I love that. Now that her children are a bit older, Carrie feels like she's just starting her law journey after coming out of that early motherhood. She feels like she didn't have a choice. She was the primary caregiver to two young children in the first few years of her legal career. Carrie wanted to be present for her children, and she also wanted to be a lawyer. Those two things did not mesh well, as many mothers of small children will agree that are lawyers. When her second daughter was 2 years old, she stepped way back from practicing. She could never seem to manage to do what her more experienced colleagues advised: dissociate from her feelings. Keep it professional at all costs, and put her well-being and the well-being of her clients aside. Yeah, that's something we'll talk about. A couple of years later, an idea came to her that maybe there wasn't something wrong with her after all. Maybe there was something wrong with the way we practiced law. Carrie started experimenting with bringing love into the law practice by practicing care, empathy, compassion, and deep listening with her clients. She spoke to them with patience and kindness. She began to see them as partners rather than people who need to be rescued or saved. Carrie sees clients as whole people rather than just a legal issue. She incorporates trauma-informed practices into her counselling and has also learned what she needed for herself to be able to fully show up. Strong boundaries, stubborn self-care, and non-negotiable time off. I love that. Carrie has been practicing yoga and meditation for 10 plus years and teaching these practices for 8 plus years. She brings a lot of meditative, yogic philosophy and somatic tools into her legal practice. And you can read more about Carrie and her work at the website link below this post. So welcome, Carrie. It's so exciting to have you here as a fellow yoga instructor. We sort of met and sort of really swapped notes in that place too for a little while, didn't we? So
yeah, we did.
We're really aligned with how we think about things. So yeah, I'm fascinated. There's a lot of lawyers in your life, your young life, and you were sort of working and playing in a law library. Did you have pencils? What was going on?
One of my first memories is I found like the notary press stamp that we use, and I would go around and stamp all the papers, and I got in so much trouble. I didn't realize. I just thought it was this cool little squishy toy. It was not. But yeah, so I lived in a pretty small city growing up, and my dad had a law office on the main street, and his uncle, my great uncle, pretty much the same. So they kind of followed in each other's footsteps. And my dad's office for the first 8 or 10 years of my life was about 2 blocks away from our house. So I would go there after school. My mom worked, and, so I would go there after school sometimes and on the weekends, and literally just, there's photos of me like sitting in the chair holding a gavel, like when I was little. Yeah.
It was destiny, perhaps.
Yeah.
And
I
that
didn't
notary
want it
stamp
to
came
be,
to use.
it was a lot of fun. I still kind of get a little pleasure out of that.
Yeah, there was probably a little bit of fortune telling going on there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. So at what point did you decide to go through law school?
So I was a psychology major in college, and I thought I was going to be a therapist, and then I thought I was going to be an art therapist, and then I realized I have like zero artistic skills. And I was like, I could be an art therapist and not do art, and that's not how I guess you could, but it didn't feel aligned. Okay. And I took the LSATs, which we need here in the States to get into law school without telling anybody. Like I just took them and applied to law school without telling my dad. Like I told nobody really. A couple people knew. And once I got in, I decided to tell people. I think I was kind of in denial for a while. But
I don't want to do this, but I'm going to.
Yeah, but I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you don't have a logical reason for doing something, right? You just like know that if you don't, like nothing's going to be right again, right? And that's how yoga teacher training was for me as well. Like I had no business with a 1.5-year-old starting, like, doing yoga teacher training. But there was just this thing where it was like a tuning fork, right? Like if I didn't do it, like it wasn't going to be right. So that
you have that off feeling, don't you? It's the know. I call it the knowing. It's just
Yeah. You feel it in your body. Yeah. So I was probably about 24. I took a couple of years off. I'm really good at making cappuccinos. I made a lot.
I have to come and have one sometime.
I did not put that on my resume. So for about 2 years after college, I just worked at coffee shops and waited tables. So I was just trying to figure it out. And then I took a chance and went to law school. So.
Okay. Yeah. So what did you think of law school?
Oh, man.
compared to art therapy ideas.
Yeah. So it was, I don't think I applied myself in a way that I should have probably applied myself in law school. And I remember, oh my gosh, this is such an embarrassing story. I took constitutional law. We had to take it in my school 1 and 2. So I took con law 1, and I remember going to see my professor after the exam to go over my final. And he sat me down and he goes, "Did you read the Constitution?" And I was like, No, I sure didn't.
Let me think.
I read my outline a lot, and I was like, man. And he looked at me, and I think this was like my third. I think it was like my first semester of my second year. And he looked at me and he goes, "You're an A student, and you're acting like a B student." And that was like the first time anyone ever said that to me. Like I got away with being a B student and getting A's like my whole life. And he just looked, and it was like, after that, it was a switch. I really it really shifted. But that first year and a half or so, it was like, I didn't get it. And then he said that to me and I was like, oh, okay. I think I get it. I get it now.
Yeah.
So it was fine. I love learning and I love all of that. But, and I do have a very kind of analytical, obvious side to me, but I am kind of into all the other stuff too. But
yeah, but I think we need both, don't you?
Yeah.
It's really, but it's sort of led by the heart center. I think we're finding that more now, whereas lawyers have come in being trained in left brain rather than in logic, rather than the knowing, the heart that tells you first, and then the brain is the assistant. And that's the way I see it anyway. The intellect follows the intuition.
Yeah.
Is my way of seeing things.
Yeah. And the way I think about law school now is like, if we get kind of into the yogic philosophy of like complete identification with ego, right? And we need that complete identification with ego in order to then transcend that identification, right? And
100%.
and then to like use the ego as your, like you said, use the ego as a tool, as your guide. Just don't let it completely identify with it, right? And so that's kind of how I feel about law school and that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we're trained more in that other way of thinking or feeling it in first, then I think you get more benefit out of it. You're using the whole person. Yes, acknowledge the ego. The ego exists for our benefit, and it is the human part of us that we need to, yes, transcend, but never. It's very useful for us. It's useful. It keeps us safe on this planet in a way, and it informs us, and it does all the things that we need to do as humans. But unfortunately, we're identifying with it too much and saying, well, this is my identity. My ego said that this is who I have to be because this is what it thinks it knows. But we are bigger than that.
Yes.
And law school doesn't teach us that all the humans that we're interacting with in relationship, because law is about relationship with others, that we need to see that there is more to a human than just the facts before us. And so this is what you discovered, didn't you? As you moved on, you discovered that, you saw that people were saying, don't connect with your emotion. Don't connect with your emotion at all. Keep that out of it. And you're saying, no, that doesn't gel with me.
Yeah, I was incapable of doing it, right? Like I just was incapable of not getting interested in my clients, knowing what was happening with them, like checking in on them and like seeing if, it just couldn't do it. I couldn't separate the problem from the person. And, I think a lot of us are trained, and I think that the advice that I got, right, to separate, to keep yourself walled off, to not, I remember getting told all the time I needed to grow thicker skin. I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how do you do that? Like,
I really think hard.
I know. Are there people not crying in the courthouse parking lot? Like, who does this? Who are these people, and how do I do it? And like, I think the advice was to keep me safe, right? It was a way to like, it was well-intended, well-intentional advice, right? We have to like, it is very, if you don't have the tools, and at the time I didn't, to like shed those days, shed those clients, shed those cases, it really does leave you at a disadvantage because you get burnout, and it's, the whole vicarious trauma and like, compassion fatigue. And so I think it was well-intentioned advice, but I couldn't seem to manage it. I just don't operate that way.
Yeah. And, I think there are some of us like you that don't operate that way. We need to be emotionally involved with other humans to connect in that way. And then there's the ones that are very good at their training, say, don't connect. Well, that's inhumane, not to connect with another human, to see them there and not connect with them at all. It's that fine balance, and being trained in that fine balance of having the connection, but not allowing the situation that the client takes your energy from you, to hold on to your own energy, to be able to hold that space for a client effectively and not be drawn into their story, but you're able to feel it and able to sort of communicate on a different level, the emotional level with them. And that's the tricky thing. I'm surprised in this day and age that we're not training lawyers doing that.
Yeah, I think there isn't a lot of people who know how to do that, though. It's hard. I think that's hard work to do that. And if you haven't been given the tools to do that in your younger life, and a lot of us haven't, then you have to kind of teach yourself first to do it before. Yeah. And I think there's that stigma, right, of it's weak, right? Or you don't want to get too into it, or that's not the place of law school. But I don't know. I'm not in the law school academia scene, but
it's still, I believe it's still the case. I believe I'm hearing that still.
Yeah.
And I wonder who came up with this idea. And as I say, you're half a human dealing with half a problem. Effectively, you're trained left brain only, dealing with a problem devoid of emotion. well, the whole relationship, when you've got a client in conflict and you're saying to me you're working in elder law now, it's all family interrelationship. It's understanding that dynamic. And when you can really see what the conflict is about with the other humans involved, you can say, okay, well, we can resolve this from ever happening again for you, because we're all just pattern oriented. We're all running our own patterns. All of us are running patterns. And from my point of view, I think if the lawyer looks at it from that perspective, they can help the client transcend those patterns and feel better. We've got that ability to heal effectively by looking into the conflict and seeing the patterns that are running, the emotional patterns. So that's why we have recidivism, because people keep coming back to us with, you've done it again, here's my favorite client back with a similar problem, because they're not seeing that as the opportunity to sort of, as a catalyst to evolve. And that's where I think what we're really missing perhaps in law school as well. So, I don't know who came up with the idea that relationships should be dealt with devoid of emotion. That's quite an interesting concept. But that's not how I see it going forward. And you obviously haven't either, because you're saying you're bringing tools in now to your own practice to really help people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that had to do with me. I didn't want to practice law in the way that I was previously practicing law. And for me, it just felt more natural to be that way. And that kind of like leap of faith of, what if something, like you had said, what if something's not wrong with me? What if like there's just no models? Like I haven't been exposed to models on how to do things differently. Can I figure out how to do this differently? And like I didn't want to give up on it, right? I didn't want to give up on it because it didn't feel like I belonged anywhere in the law until I changed the way I practiced.
So you had this idea, I didn't fit here, so I need to do something else. See, a lot of lawyers would move out of law completely, and that's what I was learning. Lawyers were moving out of law because they just didn't resonate with that. So tell people how you got some tools. Which tools did you choose? Why did you choose them that were effective in legal practice for you?
Well, you mentioned, I became a mom. like I feel like my motherhood and my legal career have been going like this, right? Where like I was unexpectedly and happily, realized that I was pregnant towards the end of my clerkship. However, I don't know if anyone's ever had the experience of interviewing for jobs while you're visibly pregnant, but it does not go well. And I could say, maybe it was me, and maybe it was that, and maybe it was that. And also, let's be honest, like I'm not super exciting for employers. Just not. So I think motherhood was the first tool, right? Because it kind of, and I'm not just going to say that I embraced it. I was like pretty bitter about that being my path for a long time. Like I just felt unfair, and I was grumpy and resentful, and then it's just kind of like, all right, well, this is where you are. So either you're going to continue to, this is me talking to myself, right? Either you're going to continue to be that way, or you're going to figure out a different way. So I had to be softer, because my first couple years of memories of being a mom is like, giving my kid a bath and like obsessing over a case, or like driving them to school and like, rushing off because I needed to get to the office. And so motherhood really kind of forced me to view things differently. And then another piece of it was, the yoga and the meditation, right? It was just like, I see yoga for me is a spiritual path. It's not any kind of other path. And so I couldn't be doing my own work on myself and then not have that kind of bleed into work, right? And my work being in the law just happened. And so when I think you start getting that more introspective, turning inward, self-study, practices, that kind of goes into everything else that you're doing in your life as well.
Yeah, look, I agree. I found when I studied yoga, I did philosophy, and then I got into ahimsa and the idea of non-harm. That's what really shifted it for me, to learn, oh yes, the whole human connection, the whole law of one, essentially, we're all connected at a fundamental level, and we're here not to harm another. And to bring that idea into legal practice really sort of was a highlight for me. It did my head in. How am I going to do this and practice law at the same time? I just felt like everything was harmful. The system was harmful. And when I understood that because the system was based in fear, that, oh, okay, it's about me versus you, like you're separate to me, but that's not the fact. You and I are connected, at a fundamental level. It's all energetic. And, this is the funny thing I'm realizing lately, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore, is that we are all energy. And unless you've been living under a rock for the, last 100 years, it's a fact. This is what we are. Science has said so. And so when we shift our way of looking at that, we're not separated into little boxes that if something happens to me, it doesn't affect you, because it does. Everything affects everything else on the planet. And I think when we start looking at it like that, then we shift the way we're going to deal with any problem. So if I help you feel better, I'm going to feel better. Because I think you'll find too, and this is what I did, as soon as I started really bringing some love and some tools to help my clients into legal practice and show them, oh, this conflict is happening for your benefit, actually. Do you want to see how? And then, yeah.
They love when you say that to them.
Yeah, that's just like, yeah, it's what? Yeah, it's crazy for them. They can't even imagine how that can happen. When you can show them, not only do they start seeing the problem differently, but you start getting the benefit of that as well. So your own practice as a lawyer is improved. You feel better. You feel like you're of service rather than burnout. It's the opposite of most lawyers coming and trying to separate themselves from the emotion. When you actually get into it and can turn it all around, you can see how you're benefiting a client for the rest of their lives. And that is such a winning feeling for me as a lawyer anyway. So I don't know how you felt about any of that.
Well, you say it too, right? The alchemy and the conflict, right? Where, there's so much potential for, what's the word I want to, like, evolution, right? Or personal evolution, right? In conflict, right? All of our stuff comes up when we're having to, when we interact with the law, a lot of times, or the legal system, right? We have to kind of stand up for ourselves. We have to look at the problem. We can't run away. Like, so much of it is like in your face. And if you can have somebody, a lawyer, right, who can kind of walk with you on that, I mean, that's, us as attorneys, we are really given this beautiful opportunity to walk with people, and if we can skillfully hold space for them, and they want to, right? They have to be willing, right, to kind of leave them off at a kind of higher, a little bit up the mountain, a little bit, right, and not to.
Yeah.
We're not doing it.
Yeah, but that is the truth of the matter. That really is the difference. And that is, I think, why we've got this reporting in of lawyers feeling depressed and suicidal, because they're not able to give that level of service. I think that it's so detached. It's the fear base of me and you. We know at a fundamental level that is not sitting and aligning with who we are effectively. And, people say to me, they say, well, why isn't this counselling? And I say, well, no, not really, but probably yes. But in any event, when we're taking our clients' details, I think you call them depositions, we call them affidavits, you'll have all the client's story there. Mm-hmm. Their whole life is on a piece of paper and they're telling us everything about them. That's probably better therapy than they've had in their whole life. And they tend not to go to a regular psychologist or counsellor first, because most people don't think they have a problem. So, it's they end up with their problem in front of a lawyer. So, of course, if the lawyer is the first port of call, can't we be the first responder to an emotional crisis? Why not?
Yeah, I think we can if we and I think we can if we have the skills to do it. We have the skills to do it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. That's the fundamental thing. It's a fundamental difference. We need the skill set. We're not being trained in that.
Mm-hmm.
And but that said, I think more and more lawyers are becoming well aware that if I want to feel better doing this job, I need to open myself up to that skill set. But as you say, it's looked down upon, weak. But having your full suite of emotions is not weak. Having emotional maturity is the difference. I think people think, or lawyers think, if I get upset by this, that makes me look weak, or if I get emotionally involved, I look weak. However, what's often happening is we're reacting. And then we're trying to separate ourselves that bit further from reacting to our client's situation. And that requires us to emotionally mature. It does require work on our behalf as an individual before we can even hold space. And that is the thing. We need to be trained in all of those things. But this is all very new, of course, that idea of us learning emotional maturity and coming into that space to hold the space for a client, because you need to hold that steady space, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that dual role of, of holding them. And then also, like, I also found that, like, having really strong boundaries is necessary, right? Because you need, and it's different than thick skin, it's different than closing off, but I need to know, like, and I'm a work in progress with this. Like,
That's great. We're all a work in progress.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, what are my, like I said, what are my non-negotiables, right? Like, I am not going to email you after 6. You're not allowed to text me. I am here for you, and I'm here for you. And then you need to let me, like, hang out with my kids, right, on the weekend. And it's I think that's an important piece too, of knowing, like, what our needs, our boundaries, our non-negotiables are, as well as a practitioner.
Absolutely. And when we don't do that, all we are doing is we're not helping the client at all.
Mm-hmm.
We're not helping them by enabling them to run to mum or dad, the parent. We're not their parents. They need to stop. Clients, stop that. We're not a parent. We are not. So this is the thing. If we're allowing people to come into our space that's in our time, we're then enabling their emotional immaturity to continue. We're saying, oh, that's okay. So stop it. Everyone just stop it. And stop working all these ridiculous hours. Unless you love it, stop it. We all have choices. I don't quite know. I see on social media, a lot of lawyers are out there complaining about the hours they're working. Where are their choices? Why aren't people making choices? I don't know why they're not making choices. That's beyond me. You always have a choice in life and how you live your life. And people say it's, oh no, I have to because the boss says. Well, it might be time to get another job, because what I call it is prostitution. You're selling yourself for the money. Why are you doing that? It's not meant to be like that. It's supposed to be fun.
I think we forget that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've just had a beautiful comment from Nicole here, who just said, yeah, lawyers need emotional intelligence, EQ, not IQ, to really understand themselves and their clients. Yeah, that's exactly. Biases and triggers which can be triggered by a client or their client's stories. Yeah, it's really, really true. We need to be able to, that's the energetic separation, I think. And from my point of view is, when we're holding our own space, we're less triggered. So therefore we've got, if you like, a higher vibration. We're holding a higher vibration when we're holding space. So the more lower vibrations of a client really aren't going to reach us. And that's different from thick-skinned. We're at a different frequency of energy, because it is all energy. And if we're holding a different frequency of energy, that lower energy, if you like, and I don't like to use the word lower or higher, it's just different. It's vibrating differently. So it can't resonate with us. It cannot resonate with you if you're sitting at a higher frequency. And this is why a lawyer needs to move into a space of higher frequencies for themselves. It's all work on self. And until we've worked on self, we can't then hold that beautiful space for another.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's no thick skin. We're holding a delicious energy. And
my skin is very thin.
Yeah. But I mean, it's loving.
But there is, it's an energetic quality, right? It's like, I'm not porous.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
I mean, like I have back, like you're not getting in unless I let you in. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is. I love that idea of thinking about it as energetic frequency and yeah, and you can still be there, and that whole idea of holding space, which goes back to like our yoga connection, right?
Yeah.
And when teaching and holding space for people, and I'm listening to you as you were talking about relationships with clients, and something I've been thinking a lot about in the last year or two is and these are kind of buzzwords now, right? Moving from a codependent relationship to an interdependent relationship with our clients, right? And like, I'm not your parent, I'm not your
Yeah.
wife, I'm not doing that anymore, right?
Yeah.
So like, how do we kind of reframe that relationship as well?
Yeah, and that is the energetic boundary that we are putting
Mhm.
up. It is that saying no, comma, thank you. You will call me in these hours. I am here for you, but this is when I'm here for you. Otherwise, sit with yourself, and it's giving clients those tools as well when they're having a personal crisis. And this is what I teach. Is I teach a client, okay, things will trigger you. So there's a skill set that you are going to learn, because this legal crisis that you're in right now is the best thing happening to you ever, if you choose.
Mm.
If you choose to take up that challenge,
Do you say
it's
that to your clients?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm.
100%. Yeah, I do that. And, I'm taking on board clients separate from the legal system. But if they're in the legal system, they're going to a lawyer in that system, and I'm showing them, guiding them through the system, not from a perspective of legal advice, because I'm not endorsing litigation. What I'm saying to people is litigation is an opportunity for you to work on self,
Mhm.
because everyone's truth is true for them. And this is one thing that the legal system hasn't been able to educate clients on. We've been very, very good enablers again as lawyers. Here, yes, I'll take your problem for you,
Mhm.
and I'll help you blame somebody else. I'll take it on a plate, and
Mm.
let's go blame that other
Well, that
person.
landed. That landed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So that's the big deal for me, is it saying everyone's truth is true for them. So your truth is true for you. The other party's truth is true for them. Let's just start there. That helps you then, and there's a little bit more involved than this, but it helps you then have compassion, or the client have compassion for the other person, how they got to be where they were, and in the relationship. And it does help discharge a little bit of the negative energy between them, so that then they can pull their energy back and focus on self and say, because the way I see it is your life is your reaction to it.
Mm.
And your legal crisis is your perfect opportunity to show you how you're reacting to life. It is there for a reason. Embrace it. And that's what I'm teaching clients. And ultimately, sometimes we can get to the point where we say we can thank the other person for showing them how they're reacting to their life. Because seriously, life has no meaning except for the one that you give to it. So anything could be good or bad. It's your choice. Everything is your choice. And then I teach clients about how the choices have been taken, because they've still allow a parent, like the lawyer. They come into the lawyer and say, "Here, you deal with it for me." So basically, if I'm the client and I'm coming into the lawyer, the lawyer's making choices for me now. I'm
Mm.
not making any choices of my own still. So that's so limiting for a human. We don't grow unless we're making our own choices.
Yeah.
So I think, there's many opportunities.
Yeah. I find that the client needs to be receptive to that as well.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, not oftentimes, but sometimes they're just not there,
Yeah. I think they're not educated as well, because I think they go to a lawyer with the idea, oh, I don't have to handle this anymore. It's no different to someone using something like, drugs, alcohol, anything to get relief from their problem.
Mm.
I'm going to a
Mhm.
lawyer for relief. I'm going to hand it over. I don't have to deal with it. So that's the mindset lawyers or the legal system is giving a client, saying, we're going to give you relief, we're going to take it away, instead of rather, we're going to give you relief, we're giving it back. It's a fun. And
Mm.
because it's like, we go to boot camp for physical fitness. We're happy to put ourselves through physical pain to get a stronger, healthier body. But for some ridiculous reason, humans aren't willing to go through emotional pain to get the stronger, the emotional maturity to grow ourselves up. We don't need a parent anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's way easier to go
That's
to
the
boot
point. That's it. I don't want to go to boot camp. Someone else make me happy.
It's way easier than me crying in the bathtub for an hour and a half.
I know, right? But that's the bottom line, and you're right. Some people just aren't prepared to do that. And that's okay too. There's people that want to keep facilitating their separation and their recidivism. That's fine. No problem. There's always, the glass of wine and the whatever it is there too. But for those, that want to make a difference or want to feel better as lawyers, I think doing something really positive for a client, there's such a different way it can be approached.
Yeah. And and sometimes I don't often go in trying to, I think about it in the back of my mind all the time. Like how is this interaction with the legal system for my client a way to kind of, all the things that you were just saying. I don't often say it straightforward, but I think the way I like to do it is just to see them, right? To see them as their whole person, to show them compassion, to give them grace, to stand empathetically understanding what they're going through. I do a lot of kind of estate administration work. And so I encounter a lot of people who are deep in grief, in grief, right? Where it's like, it's kind of one of the cruel things we do to people here is someone that you really cared about just died. Now you have 8 months to file a tax return, right? It's just, it's just like, this is awful. What are we doing to them? We always kind of think about appointing somebody who's close to us and to take care of our affairs, but it's like people, when they're really in grieving, and it's not often, it's not always, somebody who's deeply grieving, but sometimes it is. And so I really try and just extend my clients grace as kind of my way of like lawyering with love, right? And that, okay, Mrs. So-and-so just called me and like yelled at me for not, for something that is minute to me. However, the bigger picture is she is like deep in it right now. And so I'm just going to just try and be compassionate as possible. I'm doing my job as good as possible. Right. And, I think there's that too, right? It's seeing them as a whole person. I mean, even down to like, a trespassing charge that we know isn't a big deal, right? But it's like the biggest thing that could happen to like some 19-year-old kid, right? So we have to, that's kind of what I do. What I really do try and do is just be like, okay. And I love surprising people, like by being the lawyer that I am. Like I love my best compliment I ever get is, no other lawyers ever treated me like this. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
To like all the other lawyers out there, but to kind of, I consider it like a personal victory when I can break down that stigma a little bit, right?
One client at a time.
And I say this jokingly, but I'm not joking, is that I think a lot of people, a lot of my clients are drawn to me because they've had traumatic experiences with other lawyers or with the legal system. Like they've experienced like really deep like trauma that they like. I'll meet somebody at a party and they'll ask me I used to before last year, and they would ask me what I did, and I would tell them, I'm a lawyer, and then like 9 times out of 10, like the most traumatic experience they've ever had was with a lawyer, and I get to hear all about it, and then like slink away and like lie about what I do next time.
That's it. I did the same. I then would just say, I'm a yoga instructor.
Yeah.
Oh, they love you then.
Yeah, they do. They tell you about their hamstrings. They don't tell you about the traumatic experience they had getting divorced and how awful lawyers are.
And how they ripped me off, and I know it's sad, and if we can change one client at a time, but as I said, we're bringing I'm bringing beautiful lawyers onto this show just to say, look, it's real, and it is safe for other lawyers to start being like this, because some do want to be this way. Some do want to bring love into their legal practice, but they don't know where to start.
Mm.
You know, and
I
this
would
is why
say
it's,
start with yourself. Start with yourself. I remember I was at a continuing ed class a couple years ago, and I don't know how the topic came up, but the instructor started talking about meditation, and then like she made a joke and like called it woo woo, and like and I like had this moment where I was like, you do not internally, I'm like, we are not dissing, we need meditation right now. So I like, I said, I've been practicing meditation for 7, 8, 9 years, and I found it really helpful, and I think it's really helpful way, like it helps me with my clients and my law. And she was like, okay. She kind of blew me off. But then this attorney who was sitting in front of me turned around and like leaned in and whispered, she's like, I've been practicing mindfulness for 3 years.
Yeah, it's a secret, isn't it? It's bizarre. Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anybody. But
I'm not a human.
You just need to tell people, right? That like these.
I know.
I think, in order to practice this way, we do need to do, and I am like all for therapy. I'm all for, that self-work, anything that works, because this is intense. Lawyering is intense, and it is. And we take on we are taking on people's traumas and emotions, and we need support. And we need to give that to ourselves. And I think, that's a good place for people to start, even if they have to like do it in secret for a while.
It is self-work anyway, isn't it? Yeah. It is. It's all self-work. So no one needs to know about it if you want to sort of keep that to yourself. But I love the idea of being different these days, doing it differently. Being different is so not being the same. Why conform? That's beyond me these days. Why does everyone want to be like everybody else? Because every beautiful human on this planet is unique, and we have our own perspective if we'll allow it. But the whole meditation thing, I remember I was sitting in a meet. It was a panel I was on one day, and I was talking lightly about meditation. Just I'm not a big, huge advocate for meditation. It's beautiful and everything. Do whatever it is that brings you back to center. But it's not like I was promoting it. And I had a judge on the panel, and she really got triggered by that. She said, well, all of us don't have time just to sit there all day and meditate. I thought, I didn't even say that, and I thought, this really triggers people. Mm-hmm. It's the idea of it's woo-woo, and maybe I want to do it, but it's all these hours I've got to put in a meditation. No. It's just shifting your mindset, and you can meditate while you're walking down to get your lunch. There's a million ways you can meditate that suit you. It's just really bringing your point of focus away from the thought. It could be on a plant, sitting there eating a sandwich. There's so many different ways it can be done. I think there's some stigma around all that. It's so
as you're talking, I'm thinking about this idea of like how as lawyers, most of us, to even like consider being a lawyer, we have this perfectionist tendencies, we have this like workaholic tendencies, we have this analytical tendencies where we need empirical evidence about everything, and if I can't meditate for 6 hours a day, then it's not perfect, so I'm not going to do it, right? And it's this. I think it's so that. And I have it, right? Like I work really hard to like not be that person all the time, right? That identification, right? The ego identification, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a personality trait that so many of us have, is that if we can't prove it, if it's not science, if it's not logical, if it's not, can't be analyzed. I mean, it can now, right?
It can now. That's the thing. Yeah.
It can now, but like. And that's why I think mindfulness is more acceptable than to say, let's go do yoga, right? Because we believe mindfulness now, right? Collectively, and
that's it. Right? It's an acceptable
practice. An acceptable practice. I think there's that too, right? All of these beautiful qualities that make us strong analytical advocates also hold us back, right, from trying these things or even giving them a chance, or as you were just saying, I just had that thought, right?
Yeah, you're so right though. And the most beautiful thing is I've been finding more and more science to support all of these practices.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm saying we are all energy. It's just time for us to like understand that. And I just keep saying it until one day it just people, oh, let me look at that. I want to see what that means. Because when you really feel it, embody that idea, everything changes for you, because then you understand how your emotions are energy, your thoughts are all energy. Everything is. It's all your reality. And as you were saying before about the client, you know, it might be a trespass case, or, you know, they've lost a spouse or something, you know, this is that person's entire reality.
Yeah.
And when we don't see that as a lawyer, we're just treating them as just a file or a piece of paper. They don't realize that's an entire reality. They're projecting out this view of the world that looks a certain way. And that's an energetic concept. And it's vital that we see that, because your view of the world is entirely different to mine. You're sitting there and I'm sitting here, but yet they're all absolutely true perspectives. And I think that's what we're really missing, that connection of understanding that perspective idea. But, you know, it's all changing. And, you know, that's the funny thing. I think there are so many more of us moving through this now. And I'm hoping many lawyers get FOMO, and they're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to miss out. I better work on what's new, because this is really the way of the future. It really is, because the younger people, I notice the beautiful young people coming through, they're just so different. They are so
don't
different.
Tolerate.
They won't put up with it.
Yeah. Right.
That's right. So the major law firms really probably need to take a lot of notice, because if they don't, their foundations, the younger people, won't be there, and they fall down. They don't have any more upsurge of power from which they can draw. And that's why I see the legal system shifting entirely anyway, and that's for another day, and more of a flow system rather than a hierarchical system, because the young people aren't going to put up with it, and they're the new lawyers coming through.
Yeah, and that shift, right? I think there is individual shifts, and also collective shifts, right? Where we, like you said, those of us, and I'll use being able to be a lawyer it's like an immense privilege, immense honor, right? And it's also, right, we also kind of have this demand for how we also have this, I'm losing my words, we have this ability, right, to kind of dictate how we want our life to be, more so than some other people, right? And so we need to kind of decide what we are going to value and how we want to live our lives and what we consider to be success. And so, as you're saying, right, you were saying this earlier, the whole idea of like, oh, I can't say no because my boss will get mad at me. I can't work less hours, And I think that's cultural too within our law firms, our organizations, right? You just keep saying yes to clients. And then all of a sudden you're working 7 hours, 70, 80, 90, 100 hours a week, right? And they just keep coming. And until we there's enough of us, a wave of us who say, okay, no, my idea of success is working. And this sounds like 40 hours, which is part-time, right, for a lawyer, right? And and having time off and doing this and doing that, right, where we have to define what this stuff means for us. But that also means that we have to be in a lucky enough, privileged enough position where we have the autonomy and the means, the actual financial means to be able to say that, right? I mean, that's another thing to think about. Where I think about it.
You're so right. What the definition of success, what is that, and, there have been studies done on that, about success is really not going for the status. Ultimate success is not going for the status. However, how do you change it? It is changing the mindset of the collective, and what looks, I liken it to the smoking, non-smoking movement, because back in the day, everyone smoked, and that was the thing. Everyone did it. And as soon as you started to become a non-smoker, you're a bit of a pariah. It's like, what are you doing? You don't belong here. And I'm going to keep smoking. That was the whole movement. And then slowly it's turned right around, and it can happen. Yeah. It just can happen as we want to start feeling better. And as I just saw Nicole, she just said something. Yeah, most lawyers would rather invest 90 minutes in a Netflix movie than 90 minutes in a mindfulness class. the same idea as escaping from reality, because mindfulness will take you away. It does take you away from that edginess, those thought systems that you've sort of, they've become habits. That's all they are. These negative thoughts are habits that you're you keep running the story over and over and over again. So Netflix will take you away from it for 90 minutes, but mindfulness will too. But then you have a tool to remove yourself from that space whenever you need it. And so as soon as that becomes a popular idea, and when everyone says, oh yeah, I'm doing mindfulness too, aren't you doing it?
It's a cool thing to do. Everyone's not working and everyone's practicing mindfulness.
That's right, exactly. So that's sorry, in my lunch break I'm going to mindfulness.
That's what everyone's doing. I read somewhere, and I don't want to quote who because I can't quite remember, but there's a difference between being like, if our level of consciousness is here, we could choose to do activities that put us above consciousness or below consciousness. So look, I love a good Netflix binge, right? But this is below consciousness, right? If I want to stay at least level of consciousness or higher, we have to kind of choose not to do those escapism. But I've also trained my body to sit with discomfort, and I've trained my body to process discomfort, and I know how to get it out of my body. And I don't think too many, I don't want to say this, but I think that's a skill that not a lot of lawyers have, right? Where I'm very kind of somatic in that way. Like I process a lot through the body. So like if something hits me, it hits me like physically. So that's another thing. I don't know. I just keep.
I love that. That's exactly right. And it is sitting with emotion. It's sitting with the energy, sitting in it and experiencing it. We are here to experience all that is. But look, I mean, Netflix, there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's all your intention behind it. If you're doing that to escape, maybe you need to question why that is.
I mean, I drink vodka and watch Netflix.
But whatever. It's all your intention behind it. If I'm doing that because I need to, oh my God, my day was so like this and I've got to get away from it all, I'm just going to do that, rather than knowing that at any minute I can go and sit with myself and I'm okay with that too. Nothing is good or bad. Nothing is nothing.
Right.
But it's how you feel about it and what your real intention is behind whatever you're doing at any moment.
Having that awareness is so key. Key.
So have you got any tips for any lawyers moving forward that want to bring some love into their legal practice? Anything at all?
Quit your job. No.
And get a haircut and a real job.
No, I think really it is for me, and I said this in the beginning, right, that the motherhood and the practice was intertwined, and I was really grumpy and resentful about it for a while. But looking back on it, because you watch all your colleagues and your friends go up, 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 and you're still going to like the library for story time, and like that's lovely and amazing. However, like I felt like I never even got on the track, right? And my point is that looking back now, I had the gift of stepping away for a moment and like giving myself space and stopping practicing law for a year or two, right? Where I could like breathe and reevaluate. And I think when we are in the practice of the legal practice, it can be so fast that we don't even pause, and then we wake up 30 years later and like, what the hell just happened, right? And so I think if there's a possibility to pause and pull back and kind of calm down the physical nervous system and kind of reevaluate, that's recommended, but I don't think it's possible for a lot of people. So I think my next tip would be, like I already said, to go inward with yourself and start doing that self-study, whatever form that takes, whether it's therapy, whether it's meditation, whether it's retreats, whether it's whatever you can do. And it's it's accessible now to a lot of us, especially now in this times, right? We have apps, we have things we can do online, and we can pull up YouTube videos for free. And I'm not saying that's, a substitute for professional help if you need professional help, but I really do think the pause and then the turning inward are the very first steps. Very first.
I absolutely love that. I love that because when you're pausing, you're stopping the negative momentum, aren't you? You're slowing it all down. So that's absolutely beautiful, Carrie. I love that. And yeah, people can do these things in secret. No one needs to know. But the paradox is, once you've been in these practices, you tend to want people to know. So it's a funny paradox, because once you're in the space, you understand it. You're like, whoa, where has this been all my life? I get how calm I feel and how much more quickly I can come back to center. And I think that's a real gift we can give ourselves.
And I know I've talked to people who are kind of skeptical, and I don't know this person's work very well, but I know a lot of people like Dan Harris, that the guy who did 10% Happier. That seems to be a good gateway person for like skeptical people.
Start with 10%, it'll be fine.
He's really grumpy about liking mindfulness. So if you feel like that might be you, he's like really into it, but really like, ugh, I can't believe myself. So he might be a good person for people to check out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Carrie.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I love it. I love sort of this interaction with everybody that's bringing some love into legal practice. And we at Lawyers for Love are, promoting love everywhere we can. And particularly it's Valentine's there in the States still, isn't it? So that's amazing. Yep. It's crazy. That's good. And so you can click down below for more of our details if you'd like to come on the show and share something about yourself and how you're bringing love into legal practice. So thanks, everyone. And we'll see you again soon. Bye now.
Bye.